What's going on, guys? So in this video today I'm going to go over a little bit about how you can calculate and keep track of your calories to reach your fitness goals. In my opinion, nutrition is 70 to 75% of reaching your goals. The other 25 to 30% is probably the workouts and the recovery themselves. Now let's dive into how do you personally figure out what calories are best for your fitness goals. First thing that we need to do is we need to calculate what is called our maintenance calories. What maintenance calories is just essentially how many calories do we need to consume every single day in order to maintain our current weight. There's a lot of different ways that you can calculate it, a lot of different equations and methods. I'm not going to bore you guys with all the science and everything. So if you go to my website and click on the horizontal tab that says nutrition, you'll see the drop down that says calorie calculator, and that's what we're going to use to determine what our maintenance calories are. But before we do that, we have to figure out the most important thing in calculating our maintenance calories, and that is what is our body fat percentage. In my opinion, the two best ways you can calculate this are using what is known as a DEXA machine and a BOD pod. Those are going to be kind of hard to find in just like a commercial gym. Most of them won't have it. If you go to, most of the time, a hospital will have it. In the bigger cities, there's usually going to be a nutritional company or somebody that carries at least a BOD pod. So if you live in a smaller city, I would definitely reach out to your local hospital to see if they have a DEXA scanner. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, but the more accurate reading that you have of your body fat, the better you're going to be able to predict what your maintenance calories are. And if you don't have access to a BOD pod or a DEXA, I would recommend finding a trainer that's familiar with doing skin site testing, like the skin pinches to measure your body fat. If you don't have that, you can always buy a scale that's got body fat reading test built into it, or one of the handheld devices that does it. Those are going to vary a lot depending on your hydration. So if you do use those, my recommendation is to always do the same protocol. Same time of the day, same amount of food, same amount of water. You don't want to do a testing one day where it's the end of the day, you drink a gallon of water, you've had 2,500 calories, and then 4 weeks later you come back and you retest and you do it in the morning on an empty stomach when you've had no water and no food in your system. So if you do use a scale, just make sure you have the same protocol set in place every time that you remeasure your body fat. And once you've calculated your body fat, you're going to head over to the calorie calculator. You're going to click that, and the first thing you're going to do is select if you're using imperial values or metric. If you're using imperial, you're using centimeters and kilograms. If you're using metric, English, US, you're using inches and pounds. The next thing you're going to do is select your activity factor. This is one that people will mess up a lot. You don't want to select the activity level that you're going to be doing in the future. The equation wants to know what have you been doing now in the last couple of months, because that will tell you where you're at. So if you've been sedentary, you haven't been doing jack shit the last 2 months, you can pick sedentary. But you plan on being super active, don't click super active. Just pick what you've been doing, not what you're going to be doing in the future. Once you fill out that information, you can enter your age and your sex and calculate all that. That'll now give you your maintenance calories, which is going to tell us how many calories you need to consume a day just to maintain your weight. Now once we have our maintenance calories, then we can start to manipulate the calories per day in order to reach our goals. So let's use weight loss as an example. That's a very common thing that a lot of people are trying to achieve. With weight loss, we know that it takes 3,500 calories less than what we consume in order to burn 1 pound of body fat. We also know that we don't want to lose more than 1% a week of our total body weight. So if you're a 250 pound person, you want to stick in that 2.5 to 3 pound range. You don't want to lose 5, 6 pounds. We know through science and research that when we go over that 1%, you're starting to also lose part of your lean body mass. So stick with that 1%. If you're a 170 pound person, stick with that 1.7 to 2 pounds per week range. I will say that if you're somebody that has a high amount of body fat, we're talking like 40% and higher, you can probably get away with a little bit more than 1% a week, but a good general rule of thumb is just to stick with that 1% per week. Slow and steady wins a race, so stick with that 1%. Let's use a 200 pound person as an example that's trying to lose 2 pounds per week, which is within that 1% range, and their maintenance calories is 2,500 calories. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take 2 pounds, so we're going to take 2 times 3,500, which will give us 7,000 calories less, 7,000 calories for the week that we need to consume less than what we burn basically. So we'll take that 7,000 calories, divide it by 7 for 7 days, That'll give us a 1,000 calorie deficit per day in order to lose 2 pounds per week. So if we know the maintenance calories is 2,500 calories, we'll take 1,000 calories minus 2,500, and that'll give us a new daily calorie intake of 1,500 calories in order to hit that 2-pound weight loss goal for the week. Now for most people, I realize 1,000 calories less per day is a significant reduction in calories, but there's a really good chance that you're not eating that healthy in the first place to begin with. You're not eating foods that are nutrient dense. So, the more whole, organic, raw foods that we eat that are actually filled with the vitamins and nutrients, the fats and the proteins that our body needs, the more full you're gonna feel throughout the day. There's a reason why when you eat like shit, you're constantly hungry, because bad food doesn't really contain enough of the essential vitamins, nutrients and macros that our body needs to function on a daily basis. So if you're somebody that's like constantly eating and you think you just have a big appetite, chances are you're just eating food that doesn't have the nutrients that your body needs to function properly on a daily basis. So you'll find that if you switch to 1,500 calories of, like I said, whole, raw, organic foods, your body's gonna have what it needs, and it's gonna feel full longer throughout the day. You're not gonna have the cravings like you did before. Not all of that 1,000 calories has to necessarily come from food. If you want, start working out like what you should be doing. If that person were to add, let's say, 300 calories burned of working out, that means they only have 700 calories left in order to reach that 1,000 calorie deficit. And that 700 calories would come from the food. So now you're looking at 2,500 minus 700 calories, which would be 1,800 calories that they could consume per day. So consume 1,800 calories, and then now they add in 300 new calories that they're gonna burn from working out. You take the 1,800 minus the 300 calories from working out, and you get 1,500 calories for the day. So you kind of start to see that when you work out, it allows you to consume more food on days where you're gonna be sedentary, not doing as much. A, you're probably not going to be as hungry, but B, you need to be more careful on how many calories you consume that day. Now that we've talked weight loss, let's talk about building muscle. We know that in order to build muscle, you need to first break down muscle tissue from lifting weights, and then second, we need to consume an adequate amount of protein in order to rebuild our muscle. There's a lot of information out there about how much protein we should consume in order to build muscle. A good rule of thumb is if we're using pounds, we use 0.72 to 1 gram protein per pound of body weight, and if you're doing kilos, it's 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight that we have. So if you weigh 150 pounds or 70 kilos, you want to stay in that 112 to 150 grams of protein per day in order to build muscle. There's also a lot of information out there about how much of a surplus you need to be, and we know that in order to build muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus. You can't be in a 1,000 calorie deficit to try to build muscle. You need to be in a surplus, but there's misinformation about how much of a surplus you need to be in. You'll see a lot of these extreme diets where people are consuming anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 extra calories per day in order to gain weight. And yeah, you are gonna gain weight, but with that many calories, you're gonna gain a lot of excess body weight. And when you have a lot more fat in your body, that's also gonna start to affect your hormone levels. Your body can only gain so much muscle per week. If you're a beginner and new at lifting, your weight gain, your muscle gains will be way, way faster that first 3 to 5 months than somebody's been lifting for years and years and years. The longer that you lift, we know that the rate of muscle mass that we can gain in a given period of time significantly reduces. So beginners, you're gonna put on muscle a lot faster initially. People that have been lifting for a longer period of time, it's gonna take longer to gain just 1 or 2 pounds of muscle. So a good recommendation is just to multiply your body weight by 16 to 20, and that'll kind of give you a good gauge of how many calories you should be consuming each day in order to build muscle. Obviously, you have to hit your protein intake. I always like to go towards that higher end of 1 gram or 2.2 kilos per pound of body weight. So sticking with those recommendations on, let's say, a 150-pound person trying to gain weight, I would multiply 150 by 16 and then do it by 20. And that'll give you a range of 2,400 to 3,000 calories per day to consume in order to start putting on weight and building muscle. The best thing you can do is just track what you're eating on a daily basis and track what's happening to your body. So if you start off on that lower end of 2,400 to 2,500 calories per day, do that for a couple weeks, see what your weight does. If your weight stays about the same or there's a little bit more of an increase, maybe try bumping the calories up to 2,600 to 2,700 calories. On the flip-flop side of that, if you're doing 3,000 or 3,100 calories per day and after 2 weeks you gain 4 to 6 pounds or even 7 pounds, you're probably putting on a good amount of body fat, which if that's okay with you, then just keep sticking with that. But if it's not, then you can just try reducing a little bit, try that 2,800 to 2,700 calories. So it honestly just takes time and practice doing it. So just start off with a number and stick with it for a couple weeks and see what your body does, and then just adjust accordingly based off of whether you're maintaining or gaining too much weight that you don't really want to gain. And finally, the last piece of information I want to leave you with is tracking your calories. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but in my personal opinion, the best way to do it is use an app called MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal allows you to scan barcodes at grocery stores or on packages of the food that you buy. It's got a huge database of all different sorts of brands and almost anything you can think of. It also allows you to customize your daily calorie intake based off of what your goals are. They'll probably try to give you a recommendation, but like I said, the best thing you can do is use the calorie calculator on my website to figure out your maintenance calories. Figure out what that is, and then based off of your goal, either subtract or add calories to that, and then use that app and customize how many calories you want to do. If you do decide to use the app and you want to customize your calories, all you're going to do is you're going to open the app, you're going to go to the bottom, you're going to select more, you're going to select goals, and then you're going to select calorie goals. And then from there, you just input what your calorie goals are for the day. It'll also allow you to select macros, your fats, carbs, and proteins. I will make another video about that later, going into a little bit more depth detail about that, but for now, you really just want to stick with your calories and your protein. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you learned a little bit more about how to calculate your maintenance calories and then adding a deficit and surplus. I'm going to make more videos in the future that go into a little bit more detail for weight loss and gaining weight, and then things such as your macros, your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. So I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, just let me know.